everybody. Welcome to Screen Less, Play More. I am Cynthia, the founder of screenlessplaymore.com, and I was so jazzed up to talk to my guest, Sarah Gallagher Trombley, that I could hardly sleep last night. I made a fake Snapchat account last night saying that I was 15, and I could not believe the hot garbage that I saw that was fed to me. And I have so many questions for Sarah. She is the perfect person to ask about this because she is a former executive at Snapchat. And now she has a excellent Substack that is called Thoughts from a Digital Mom. And she has really, really informative webinars for parents to teach us all about kids and tech and how to stay safe, if we can stay safe, on social media and all sorts of different topics in tech. So welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Cynthia.
Second time with us. She is that good, that helpful, that interesting. We need a little applause special effect in the background for the first person to come back 2 times on Screen Let's Play More.
Well, so, I'm honored. Yes, I'm so excited to be back.
So I'd love to start with your webinars. You did 3 of them over the summer in connection with OK to Delay, and those people could still get on demand. And then you have some brand new ones that will be starting in September. What were you guys talking about this summer that people could get on demand right now?
So this summer, over the course of July, we did a 3-part webinar series on 3 different topics. First one was group chat. Mm-hmm. So how do you really wrap your arms around group chat? How do you set it up safely? How do you talk to your kids about texting etiquette? And how do you think about coaching them? The second one was video games. And video games really was looking at all of the different ways kids play video games. So whether they're on a Switch or an Xbox or a PlayStation, or they're doing it from an app on their iPad, really looking at the differences when you're on a different surface. And then we broke down the 3 most requested games. So from my perspective, the games I get asked about the most from parents, which means their kids are asking them. Mm-hmm. So we talked really specifically about Roblox, Fortnite, and Minecraft. Okay. And I talked about how to think about them, how to evaluate whether they're safe or not, what to look out for, the parental controls were all that good stuff. And then the final session this summer was a pure deep dive on Snapchat. Having worked there, I know the app very, very well. So really broke it down. It's actually a great course for folks who don't know how to use the app. Mm-hmm. It is not necessarily intuitive for grown-up brains for a lot of us. Yeah. So I spend some time really showing how the navigation even works, because that alone is confusing. And then we get into the parental controls that are available, some supplemental steps you can take to make it safer, which requires additional technology, and really break down what it means to say yes or how to say not yet in a way that your kid will hear, even if they're not thrilled with the answer that you've come up with. So those were live in July. They're now available on demand.
Okay.
And then
what's the website that people would go to find them?
So you can find information on everything related to my work at digitalmom.me. Okay. Or I have a link tree. So if you find me on Instagram, I'm at digitalmomming. You'll see a link in my bio there that will show you direct ticket links to everything that I'm working on.
I mean, I am absolutely going to go back this week and watch that, because now that my eyes have been opened to Snapchat, I absolutely need to figure out how to navigate it. And I mean, I'm probably going to tell my children to never, ever, ever have it, but I still think I need to know how to deal with it. But especially I want to learn about video games, because my boys play a couple different video games. We try to really limit it, but they play Minecraft. So I can't wait to hear what you have to say about Minecraft. And I did your webinar a couple months ago about group chatting, And it was very, very helpful of just like really basic etiquette type things that kids would never even think about. So I highly recommend, basically everybody, please listen to her webinar. She knows what she's talking about. It is so helpful. And I appreciate that it's very step by step. If you're a parent and you just do not understand a certain app or a certain phone or whatever, you're very good about going through step by step. Here's the toggle to do. Here's the switch to hit. Here's how to do this parental control and that parental control. So I very much appreciate that for those of us that are not super tech savvy, and then our kids are way better at it than we are. So
they're so smart, those kids.
Yeah. What is coming up in September that people can look forward to?
Yeah, so this September, I am partnering with a California-based nonprofit called Healthy Screen Habits. And together we've collaborated on a 3-part series that you take over the course of 3 weeks, and it's all about social media. So the name of it is called Safe Social Media, How to Make It as Safe as It Can Be. Social media comes in many flavors. The most popular ones, of course, are TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat. So together with my partners at Healthy Screen Habits, we will identify really helpful frameworks for making decisions about social media in general, how to step into it safely, and then really get into the technicalities of these apps. So what is going on Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat? Are there parental controls? What do those apps' parental controls do, and what do they not do? And where are they located? So that parents can really take those two pieces, the framework and the technical knowledge, to create a plan that will make sense for them. And that's sort of the culmination in the final set of the series. We get really personal on how to set up a good, sustainable plan that will work for your family. Because everybody's different, right? Everybody's kids are different. Their interests are different. The timing is different. So really being able to take information and then turn it into your personal plan is the objective of the series, and really what parents will walk away with. So super excited for that collaboration.
That one at first will be live?
Yes. So the live sessions will run on September 8th, September 15th, and September 22nd. And then the whole program will be available as an on-demand serial right after that.
And when it's live, is it such that if I'm on there live, I can ask you guys personal questions specific to my family?
Yep. That's exactly right. So there's Q&A built into each module. So anyone who joins us live can get personal questions, individualized questions answered as they go through the material with us.
Okay, that's really nice. So that's definitely a perk of doing it live, that if you have burning questions, you can get them answered live. And then if you can't make it live for some reason, you'll be able to go back and watch the archive on your site.
Exactly. September feels like the right time because we're back to school, and also feels like the busiest time because we're back to school.
Right.
So we wanted to make it possible for you to tune in live if that works for you, but wanted to make sure folks could do it on their own time. Because that's one thing I've experienced as a parent and observe at others, is that time is sometimes scarce.
Well, this is great because I personally am going to delay as long as humanly possible, but I am going to have to know how to navigate this eventually, because I don't want to just send my kids off to college and be like, have a nice life, try out whatever you want to try. Yep. I think I'd like, probably senior year, I'm guessing, I'll say, okay, let's dive into social media because it's out there and you're going to see it on other, I'm sure they will have already seen it on other friends' phones prior to that, but I'd like to give them a chance to test it out at home on their own phone and really figure out the highs and lows of it before they're out on their own. So this kind of course is so imperative to figure out, okay, how does this work? What are the pros? What are the cons? How do you stay safe on it and stuff, so that you can give people, give your kids kind of driver's ed, training wheels, because a lot of kids are going to want to have this, whether you like it or not, no matter how much you warn them about it or not. So this is just nice to have a place for parents to start. So I'm very excited.
And I think that's right. You make such a great point, Cynthia. Regardless of the age at which we decide to allow it for our own kids, they don't exist in a vacuum. So folks around them, kids around them will have it or they'll see it. And so really getting your arms around it now, even if you are set that your decision is no right now, is useful. And also, kids don't like hearing no the first time they ask and you say not yet is a tough conversation. And so having, I think, the information to be able to present your no with confidence and context is really, really helpful. It doesn't necessarily mean your kid's going to be like, oh, great, I totally see the light. Of course, Mom. Sometimes they will. Many of them won't. But being able to navigate that tricky conversation and come out of it with your relationship intact is also, I think, super important, because it can be a long journey if the first time your kid asks for it is when they're 11 and you're waiting until much later. It's not just one conversation, it's a series of them. So
right. And that's a great point of, even though I intend to delay, I really should know this stuff so that I can have this conversation now. Like, hey, if you see this at your friend's house, here's why I think it's dangerous. Here's why I think, X, Y, and Z. Like, you kind of get the knowledge in your head so that you can tell your kids now, here's why we're delaying it. Here's what to watch out for if you see it on your friend's phone. And then, you're not going to get your own for a few more years. But, we don't live in a cave. You're obviously going to see it. And that's just really nice if you're going to tell parents how to have that conversation, because some kids will be not that interested. Okay, fine, Mom. And some kids are going to freak out. No, everybody has it. Oh, my gosh. And some kids are probably going to get it behind your back. And so you got to figure out how to have that conversation once you find out that they have it and they've had it for 6 months and you didn't even know that they had it, or, however that goes. So you and I had talked before about group texting, a little bit about social media, and that, if people want to see, is on episode 9 of Screen Less, Play More, because we did get into that a few weeks ago. So I can't wait to ask you all about this. So
Should we get into Snapchat?
Let's get into Snapchat.
Okay.
I asked some friends last night, what kind of questions do you have for Sarah? Because I was just kind of curious what other parents wanted to know. And I said she used to work at Snapchat, and 3 of my girlfriends that have kids in elementary school all said the same thing, where they're like, I don't get it. What's the problem? It's filters. It's making silly pictures on Snapchat. How does that lead to porn? They just were like, I don't get it. This does not seem dangerous. And I think there's a large group of us of a certain age bracket that did Snapchat very early on and made silly videos of ourselves with dollar signs coming out of our eyeballs and cat ears. And then we gave up on it after a couple of weeks, because who has time for that unless you're a teenager? And so people think, oh, sure, I'll give my kid Snapchat. That's really fun. That's filters. And so, first of all, I'd like to ask you, okay, why is that not the truth anymore? And why is it so much more dangerous? And then I will get into how I made a fake account.
All right. Sounds good. So the filters are not dangerous. The filters are lovely, whimsical, silly, creative, all sorts of things. The main concern parents should have, there's 2, has more to do with the disappearing messages. So the way Snapchat is used primarily used by both kids and by predators, is as a messaging app in place of text message.
Okay.
The reason why these 2 groups are particularly interested in Snapchat is because the messages disappear. So
theoretically, right? I mean,
theoretically,
can Snapchat find them if they needed to? Are they on a server somewhere?
I don't know the technicality, and I should say that's a caveated yes. My understanding is that if they are subpoenaed, they have been able to produce content from messages. I am not a lawyer. I am not up on all of their lawsuits. But that is my understanding from reading about some of the lawsuits that have been put against Snapchat. So they disappear in that if your mom goes to check your phone, she's not going to be able to see the message you just sent, and she's
Okay.
not going to be able to see the message that you just received.
Okay.
And that is really interesting to many people. One of the reasons it's interesting to young people is because it feels like nobody's watching. It feels like nobody's supervising. It feels like you can say or send anything you want.
And how fast do they
And
disappear?
that's up to you, and that gets into the settings. The default setting is that it disappears within 24 hours.
Okay.
You can change that. It's cumbersome to do. As a parent, you can't do it from the parental controls. You'd actually have to take your child's phone, open the chat, look at each individual contact, press down on each individual contact, go into a setting and say, you want this person's snaps to hang around for up to 7 days. So you can do that.
Can the kids make it so that it disappears after 1 minute or something?
I forget exactly how quickly, but it can go away pretty quickly.
Okay.
And even if you compelled your child to make the messages stick around, the second you walk away, they could just go back and put it back. No kid wants to do that also, because if I open say you and I are friends on Snapchat and my mom's like, I need to know that the messages you and Cynthia are sending are sticking around. I need you to change that so they're there for 7 days. When I go to do that, you then get a message or a notification on Snapchat that I've changed that setting, which is for any teen just mortifying.
So
you know what I mean? How embarrassing.
I get it that my mom changed it, but does my friend get the message that it was changed?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
so now all my friends know that I'm lame
Yeah.
and don't send
my
Cynthia
friend-
the cool
Exactly.
stuff because her mom's going to see it.
Because her mom obviously made her change that setting.
Okay.
And oh my God, so embarrassing. So that is a big factor. Snapchat also has several lawsuits against it because of predator activity. So there are several lawsuits for fentanyl deaths that have been attributed to drug deals that have gone down allegedly on Snapchat. Also, similar issues with any social media app, to be clear. There are lawsuits against Instagram and TikTok too, but Snapchat seems to have more of them in the press. There are lawsuits against Snapchat for wrongful death through sextortion.
Okay.
Strangers have found kids on Snapchat. This also happens on the other apps as well, where they have pretended to be another child. The child in question has become interested in this person, thinks they're having some sort of relationship or interesting interaction. They get asked to send an inappropriate photo, and then they find that they're being sextorted. It happens.
And does it seem that that happens more one-on-one, or do they infiltrate a text chain of a bunch of kids?
It can happen numerous different ways. It also happens in the game chats of video games and on Discord and in WhatsApp. It happens anywhere that messaging can happen, private messaging can happen. Sometimes it's individual. Sometimes a stranger will infiltrate a friend group, a chat, and then target one person in the group and sort of get them to move to another location. Let's move our conversation over to Snapchat, or let's move our conversation over to text message, or whatever it is. Usually a place you would want to move that location if you're a predator, to a place where you think the messages won't stick around.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so one of the main problems then is the actual like chatting back and forth and the texting. I'm interested. That's very interesting to me to hear that that is the main problem, because I found the feed to be incredibly problematic. So I went on last night. I said that I was 12. It immediately said, "Oh, sorry, you're not old enough for Snapchat." So I went back on 10 seconds later with the exact same birthday, but a different year, exact same phone number, and said that I was 15, and it welcomed me with open arms, no problem. Yes. So now that I said I was 15, I was A-okay. So just know that parents, your child could be 9, they could be 10. As long as they lie, no problem whatsoever. I got right in. And then it insisted that I give my phone number. It insisted that I give it access to my camera because I didn't want to. And it said like, oh, Snapchat's all about photos. You have to. So it wasn't going to let me be on the app if I didn't give access to my camera. So I did that. You know, I wouldn't let it give me notifications. I didn't give it access to my contacts, all that stuff. But immediately it was saying like, you know, here's some of your friends. And so it found 2 teenagers that I know that are in my, well, I thought at first that it really was going into my contacts, but then I realized I must be in their contacts. So it's like my friend's daughter and then one of our teenage babysitters popped up because I must be in their phones. So I could have contacted them. But then it gave me a whole bunch of people that said like, here's people you might know. And it was absolute strangers. It was definitely not people I knew. And they made it seem like, okay, these first 5 are highlighted in a certain way because these are your friends. And these next few are highlighted in a different way because they're probably not your friends. So it was very deceptive about who I should click on, about who were my friends and who weren't, which I suppose would be very confusing to a kid. I mean, I certainly knew that I didn't know them, but I don't know if a teenager would just think, oh, sure, yeah, okay, that seems good. And then I just kind of started poking around. And so one of the first things I did is I went over to the feed, which I can't remember what it's called. And so that's the sort of thing that I didn't know existed, that I think my friends didn't know existed, that it really is like an Instagram or like a TikTok or something. Yep. And so I went in and it was interesting because it doesn't give you any sort of a choice of what you want to watch. Whereas in Instagram, I can say who I want to follow and kind of guide the algorithm to be like, oh, I like stuff about parenting and I like inspirational quotes and I like stuff about movies and whatever. And you kind of, you very much curate your feed. And I feel like you have a lot more control in that way of like, oh, never mind, that certain person's too much of a downer. I'm not going to follow them anymore. Or you can kind of tweak your feed, which I very much noticed because I have a personal feed and I have a Screen Less Play More. And they're very different from each other. And you can see how different people would have very different information going to them based on their feeds. And I can see how a lot of moms are like, what's the big deal about feeds? You can see beautiful aerial photos of Italy and you can see how to decorate your house or whatever. And so I went on and it thinks I'm 15. And the first thing it showed me was a girl talking about all the stuff that she bought at Nordstrom. And I was like, okay, here we go. Teenage girl stuff. And I really thought what was going to be bad was that I was going to have to sit through a bunch of mind-numbing mascara tutorials and then some predator was going to like try to talk to me. And that's what I was expecting. And nobody tried to talk to me or message me or anything. But the feed went from, here's what I bought at Nordstrom. The very next one was some middle-aged man playing a Barbie video game. And I was basically just supposed to watch him play this video game. The third thing it showed me was some people skinning a muskrat, which is just so bizarre. And then 4 minutes in, I'm 15 years old, 4 minutes in, it was something about kiwi and how beneficial kiwi is to your health. And it was just full of bad words. It was the F word. It was the B word. It was the S word. It was just full of bad words. I've counted in 28 seconds. It said 8 cuss words. Now, the thing is, I watched it 4 or 5 times because I wanted to write down what it was saying and I wanted to take screenshots and stuff. And so all of a sudden, almost all the rest of the stuff I was watching had cussing in it. And so, do you think that was what let the algorithm know that I was cool with cussing is because I watched it so many times?
Probably.
And
it looks like you look like you're really into that video because you watched it 4 times. And that's probably the first one of the first concrete signals that algorithm got about you, because it's learning about you in the
Right,
beginning.
because prior to that, I just decided I wasn't going to do anything. I didn't press a heart. I didn't say like. I didn't share it or anything. But all of a sudden, I watched this one video with all this cussing 4 or 5 times. So then the very next one was like some little kid cussing at a grown-up. Then it just so fast got so inappropriate. And so, by the way, if you are listening to this podcast right now with your little kids in the background, I suggest that you listen to it another time or have the kids leave the room, because we're going to talk about stuff that I find incredibly offensive that it would be on a kid's social media feed. But I think it's really important for parents to hear how bad this can get, how fast. So 13 minutes in, it was a woman listening to a song about how the mom got a Christmas present of a vibrator. And it was really, really graphic. It talked about that the vibrator was thick and veiny, and like it was so inappropriate. I couldn't believe it. Then it was a bunch of stuff about how to use a tampon, and then it got so weird. It started showing me a bunch of stuff about Jesus. Like, it took this very weird left turn, and it was like a little boy in a hospital being like, I can see you, Jesus, I can see you. It was so strange. And I just thought, oh my gosh, if I were like 12 and I had gotten on here just thinking I was going to see a bunch of stuff about makeup and hair, and all of a sudden, like, it was like really disturbing. And then the next one was a little girl at some sort of church revival, and she was like possessed, and they were like, Jesus is gonna save you. Oh, it was so weird. And then it just got super sexual, because again, I just let it do its thing. I didn't swipe away from stuff. I didn't report anything. I didn't say no. And so it pretty much like got into erotica, I would say. And this was within less than an hour. It was women that basically looked like porn stars. They had enormous boobs. They were just like being very sexy, talking about pretty normal stuff, but just like very erotic. There was clips from movies where a guy walked in on a woman who was supposedly masturbating. It was stuff about, how do you tell that your man is cheating on you? How do you tell, like, how do you make your man be obsessed with you? I mean, I don't even want to say the rest of the stuff that it was showing me. It was just so massively inappropriate. It was talking about sexual acts. It was talking about, like, grab your girl by the waist, push her against the wall and kiss her. It's what every girl wants. Just find the courage to do it. It blew my mind that within less than an hour, it got so incredibly inappropriate. And so I really want parents to know that if you're just like, sure, it's cat filters, and then you hand it to your 12-year-old, this is the sort of stuff they are going to be seeing. And I can't believe that that's exactly where it first decided to send me. What kind of parental controls can go on that feed?
Yeah. There's one. So for Snapchat, if you set up parental controls, there are a few. There are not a lot. And this is different than some of the other social media apps. But on Snapchat, in parental controls, there is a toggle that you can turn on that will block sensitive content to your child's account.
Okay.
On other social media apps like Instagram or TikTok, you can actually block topics, keywords, hashtags.
Okay.
And get specific. That is not possible on Snapchat. It's just simply a toggle on or toggle off for the sensitive content button. Snapchat is newer to the content feed game.
Okay.
So they have less content. At least they did it last time I checked, last time I worked there, because that's when we launched Spotlight, which was the page that you were on.
Okay.
They were building up the content in there. So they probably are drawing from fewer pieces of content overall than a TikTok or an Instagram, which means most people are going to your choices, like the choices that the algorithm is picking up on your preferences may not be able to specialize as much as you would like, because there's not as much to choose from.
Okay. Is there a way to choose what you see? I couldn't tell if there was any way for me to say the things that I liked and didn't like.
No, and it's possible they put some sort of curation layer in after I left. I don't believe that they have. I think it's the sensitive content toggle. And as you're going through the feed, I'm not going to ask you to open it again, uh, considering what you've just gone through. But if you were to open it again and you're looking at that page, in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see three little dots. And if
Okay.
you press on that, a menu pops up and you can report something that's inappropriate or mute that sort of thing. But you have to
Okay.
go one by one as you're
Well,
going through
oh
it and
wow.
be
So
like,
yeah, so the thing is,
not for me.
I slept on it, and then this morning I
Hmm.
was like thinking to myself, okay, what is in it for these people? And so I thought, okay, there's got to be this extra layer. So I went back on, and of course, it went instantly back to really inappropriate stuff. And
Right where you left
so,
off.
yeah, exactly, right where I left off. So I clicked on one of the like really sexy ladies and went to basically the page that just tells me like what her name is, pretty much like her kind of like profile page or whatever. And
Hmm.
immediately it was a page that said like click here for my uncensored content. So it was just going to lead me straight to whatever page she has, probably porn on or whatever. And of course, I did not want to click on that to see where it was going to take me. But I'm guessing that a lot of these are just, it's sort of a teaser to get you to their page that is actual porn or perhaps is like a paid page like OnlyFans or something like that. So I'm just, people, parents are thinking like, how does this get kids to porn? It just doesn't make any sense. And that it's just so easy because you just open up this feed, click on the person's profile, and they just give you a link to go straight to quote uncensored content. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to report this person. So I clicked that I was going to report them. But what I also found very interesting is it gave me only three choices. It was like, is this inappropriate content of me? Is it inappropriate content of the user? Or does it have a child in it? So I just said that it was inappropriate of the user. Granted, I didn't see anything bad. It's not like she was naked on Snapchat, but then it gave me a place to like write a little something. So I just said, this led me to a link of uncensored content. So, if you're a kid and you're like, well, it's not any of those three things, it's just making me feel really creeped out. It's almost playing down whether it makes you think like, well, it's not that bad. Like it's not a picture
Right.
of you. It's not a picture of them. It's just very creepy and unsettling, but maybe it's not bad enough to report or I don't know. So, okay. So basically the only thing a parent could do is just hit that toggle to say that they don't want. And as far as you know, does that tend to work? Does it tend to weed out stuff?
It should.
Okay.
How effective it is, I wouldn't really be able to say. It depends what is supporting that toggle. So what is the formula that they have come up with to determine that something is sensitive content? I don't think that detail's shared publicly. I don't necessarily know the answer to it either. But yes, I would say at minimum, parents would want, if you're going to allow a child on there, they absolutely must have that sensitive content toggle turned on, or you have to turn it on for them through the parental control. And I would look very seriously at some of the other external monitoring systems that are out there that can give content alerts or alerts for messages as well.
So what type of products are those? I don't think I've even really heard about that.
Yeah. So it becomes a bit of an arms race, right? Because now you have to add more tech on top of tech. So it depends what sort of device your child's on. If your child is on an Apple device, there's one company that has been successfully able to assist with content and message monitoring, and they are called Bright Canary. It's a relatively new product.
How do you spell it?
Bright Canary, BRIGHT.
Oh, Bright Canary. Okay.
Like the bird. If your child is on an Android device, Bark, Custodio. There are many other choices. You are just looking for a parent-managed app or service that will allow you to see alerts for inappropriate content in messages or content in general.
So
Those are
that's
the
an
two
app I
buckets you're looking
put
for.
on my child's phone, and it's monitoring everything that they see. Is that right?
So you are running it out of your device,
Okay.
and it is managing your child's device.
And it gives me alerts when they see something that has been flagged as inappropriate? Okay. Got it. So for Snapchat, you feel like you really need that. I mean, I'd heard you say once before that Snapchat is considered a camera app, and so are they not held to the same standards, or?
No, it's more their guiding philosophy as a business is that they are a camera company. They don't consider themselves social media. But if you break down the component parts of what you do, they still have a messaging feature. They still have a scrolling content feed. They have, the component parts, and these third party, there's no like social media legislation out there. So it's not like, they're compelled to do anything. None of these companies are. All of them are starting to add parental controls because of pressures, but not because of like a specific act that's been passed, right? You just want to treat each one, like understand how each one works and what controls are possible and what's missing. And then if you add the extra stuff on top of it, are the controls you want still missing? It's a bit of a patchwork.
Okay.
But that's why you should take my course in September, because I will break
Yes.
down all three of them.
Please, everybody.
It's a lot of detail. It's a lot of detail.
Take her course in September. I will definitely be taking it. Is there any way then, once you've gone down this rabbit hole, to quote unquote, like fix the algorithm? Like, how could I ever make it stop showing me this stuff and get back to just, here's what I bought from Nordstrom?
As you're going, each time you see a new piece of content, press down on those three dots in the upper right and start to give active signals, evaluations of each tile that should change the course of your feed.
Okay.
But also as a parent, like take a step back and think about that. Do you think your child's going to do that?
Right.
Do you think your child's going to report content? I will say the other piece of it to consider, I would say that the ability to curate with nuance is much better on Instagram and TikTok. The majority of the use case on Snapchat isn't necessarily watching that content. Most kids are there for the messaging. The content business, at least when I was there, very, very, very small part of the active time that users are spending, but they are. So,
but see, that's what worries me is that I would think, okay, if I really were 15, I probably actually want to talk to my friends and I want to send pictures and I want to know where they are and whatever, and I want to use the Snap Map. But if I'm 10, maybe I just go to that because that seems fun. I'm just afraid that like the younger kids that get on are just going to be like, oh, cool videos. And they're hoping it's going to be kids doing skateboard tricks. And then all of a sudden it's super adult.
Yeah,
So,
there's no way to turn off the content. And just because most people are not using it for a long time doesn't mean nobody's using it. So you do have to manage it and you have to be really careful. So I think, like a general best practice, I say this a lot in my house. I've had to say it even more lately. We don't lie in our house as a family value. So at minimum, you go to the App Store and there's an app that is rated for 13 or 12 plus or whatever it is, and you're 10, you can't have that app. Just can't have it. The app and the store are saying to you, you are too young for this. Yeah. So at minimum, I would follow that guidance. In most cases, I would wait longer, but at least start there. That's a bit of a defensible
Yeah, to just say,
position.
this
Not
is
that you,
actually the law. This is the rule that they have given you.
mm-hmm.
And I mean, I
Yep.
wish it were 18 and up, and maybe we're going to get there someday in our country. A lot of other countries are starting to inch towards at least 16 for these apps.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it just really
But we're
blew
not
my
there
mind
now.
of what was available.
Well,
And
and how easy it is,
yeah,
because even those age restrictions, parents need to understand that at least right now, just as you described earlier, it's like the honor system. There's no actual age verification of apps in this country right now. That may be changing. There's certainly pressure to do so. It's changing in the UK. They just passed legislation that's prompting for stricter age verification there. It's a great example of a country leaning in and doing things differently, and one example I hope the U.S. follows. But as of now, if you don't lock down the App Store on your child's device, they can download things even if they are rated 13 plus, 12 plus, and they are younger. There is no mechanism to confirm yet that they are the age that they say are. I do think that's changing. One of the other things that's changing, both, I think this is coming for app stores and it's certainly used by the social media apps, is age detection. So this is one interesting use case for AI where many of the apps, after a period of time, are looking at your face as you're looking at their
oh
app.
yeah, is
And
this
if
the
they
brand new thing that
realize
YouTube is going to do?
YouTube's going to do this,
Yeah,
I know
tell us
for
about
certain
that. This
that,
is really cool.
yeah.
So how does it work?
So essentially, there's facial recognition software. Many of the apps already use it. I know that TikTok and Instagram do. I don't know if Snapchat does, where it can look at your face and determine within, I think, a reasonable margin, your relative age.
Okay.
And so if you are 11 and you look 11 and you sign up, I know this happened to a friend of mine's son. You sign up for a TikTok account and say you're 13, but you're really 11, it will eventually lock you out and say you're not. You have to provide some sort of documentation
You have to
or
like
some sort of
upload your
verification.
driver's license or something?
Something. I mean, I don't know exactly what it is. I don't know any 13-year-olds that have license. You know what I mean? So it
Right,
can't be
right.
licensed necessarily. So I don't know
Your
the
high
specifics
school
of what.
ID.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Your birth certificate, maybe. So it does get tricky, but I know that that is certainly technology that the apps have been using, and I believe that is coming for the app stores relatively soon, which would be a huge step forward for child safety. There are many folks that feel like this is too invasive and censorship. There's a lot of people with very strong opinions on this topic. I personally am in favor of it. I would be happy if you would kick my 11-year-old off an app they're not supposed to be on if they've somehow gotten on there.
I find it interesting about them watching you, basically. Like TikTok is watching you as you are using it. And is Snapchat doing that in the same way? Like, are they
I don't know.
watching you?
I'm not sure if they're using that technology or not. They weren't when I worked there, but that's several years ago now, and I didn't even know it existed back then.
I wonder what would
So it could
happen
be.
if I'm 11 and I'm savvy and I just put tape over the camera and it can't see me. I wonder what it would do then. Like if it would let me just keep
wonder.
watching content because it can't see
Right.
my face.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, on the other hand, you could also just go make another account.
True, I guess. And then you just keep watching and watching until it blocks you.
Yeah, all this to say is that, I think tools and technology are getting better and more savvy, but it really still comes down to us as parents to expose our kids to things when they're ready, talk to them about it, talk to them about the why, and not make everything so available and hope for the best. The one thing parents shouldn't, as much as I talk about the how of setting up the technical pieces, that should never replace your own parenting.
Right.
It shouldn't be like, well, no, now I can give them all of the things because I've locked them down.
Right.
Is still risky because the tools are complicated, things get missed or changed, and you need to be able to explain the why and continue to work on, your relationship with your child on how you're navigating all of this anyway, and why you're concerned about it and why you may be limiting certain activities as
I think
opposed
that's
to
so smart because
relying on tools.
that arms them. Like if like you're saying, there's no way you can lock it down 100%, and there's always going to
No.
be workarounds. There's always going to be new apps. It would be more than a full-time job for you to truly, really watch what your kid is doing. And so, like, if you just let them know, like, here's why it's dangerous. Here's what I want you to watch out for. Here's things that, like, I really loved in your other webinar, you said one of your rules is just don't ever send a picture to somebody. At least, like, while you're of a certain age, like, I suppose perhaps you as a family could decide, like, okay, now you're 15 or 16 and you could text a picture of your outfit to your best friend. Maybe you could come to some sort of agreement like that. But at the very beginning, it's probably a great idea to just say, just don't send pictures, because you don't know who's going to get it. You don't know who's going to forward it. And that's another thing of kids not even thinking sometimes, like, well, Snapchat, oh, great, it all disappears. Well, you can take screenshots of everything. I took a ton of screenshots last night while I was using it. And you could think that it's going to disappear, and then it winds up in the wrong hands. So,
Yep. The other sneaky thing I have heard of kids doing is, so the one thing, if you take a screenshot on Snapchat, the other person gets notified that you took a screenshot of their message.
Okay, that's good.
In the chat part.
I mean, so it could be good, could be bad. I mean, it depends on if you're talking to a predator.
Right. But one of the other things kids will sometimes do is if they're sitting with a friend, they'll have their friend just record or take the picture of their camera, of their phone, so that they actually still have the thing that they're trying to catch you with.
But the other person's not alerted. Okay. Wow.
Yes. The leveling up of workarounds is a masterclass. There's always something new. Kids are motivated to get around the rules they don't like. That's a little bit developmentally appropriate, unfortunately. But having the conversations about trust and consent and, all of being kind online, it sounds maybe trite, but really actually very important, that these are the things that will come back around in dangerous ways if you're not careful.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important, of just like very basic etiquette rules when kids first get online or first get on texting, of just like, I know you can't see this person's face, but if you say something mean to them, it hurts their feelings. Just like really basic stuff that would hopefully keep them from bullying, or, just understanding that this is still a human being behind that screen.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And once you put something out into a message, whether it's a mean text or a photo, now it's living or could be living on somebody else. You don't really own it anymore. It's out there. And so you had a moment where you said something really unkind to a friend. It now lives on their device. And they might save it and tell on you and show it to someone. Or a parent might be reviewing content messages on that side.
Right.
So, I mean, this is a bit more, I think, on texting, but something that, when kids are young and learning these ways of communicating, they're not thinking in those like multi-step, if I do this, then these are the array of consequences or potential outcomes sort of way. And then, social media messaging and content consumption is just like an even more complex set of structures and activities. So it's a lot. It's a lot for kids to learn. It's a lot for parents to stay on top of. So it just shouldn't be offered lightly. It's something you really want to think about, and have to spend, I think, a good amount of time on. Yeah. Even though nobody has time.
Yeah. I mean, in your perfect world, if you had a magic wand, would you want kids to just use texts instead of using Snapchat to converse because of all the pitfalls of things like Snapchat or Instagram? Like, how do you think would be the safest way for kids to kind of get into the technological world and be able to talk to their friends and avoid a lot of the dangers?
I mean, honestly, trying to have conversations in real life would be my preference. Bringing back the bringing back the landline would be my preference.
Yeah.
Encouraging like actual conversations would be my preference. And then also then thinking about, okay, so I don't hate texts. I send a ton of texts. I'm on many group chats. I've also taken myself out of a lot of group chats because I can't handle it. Like I get overwhelmed, and sometimes they're just super disruptive. So thinking about what is the point of this thing that I'm doing. And it's okay, by the way, if the point of the thing that I'm doing is entertainment. Like, I'm not saying that's not allowed, but like being very intentional about how we spend all of our time is probably good exercise for all of us. So I'll give the example of my son. My son is going into 7th grade. He does not have an iPhone. He has a parent-managed phone. And I gave it to him because I wanted him to be able to check in with me and my husband and make plans with friends and just like be able to basically update us on his whereabouts and make his own plans. So this wasn't given to him as a way to have conversations.
Okay.
I'm not opposed to that happening, but the utility of this product is so that if you go to your friend's house after school, you could just let me know. Or you want to have a friend over to our house after school, you could ask me. Or you can't find your friend because he's in another hallway, you could find him.
Okay.
Like, that's the utility of this device.
Using
or
it
you want
as
a bike
a
ride,
tool.
whatever.
Okay.
And if you wind up having chats in there along the way, sure, fine. But I'm hoping most of that conversation's happening in person. If it's not happening in person, we've allowed my son to FaceTime with one of his friends that lives far away. We did that a lot during the pandemic too. I don't mind that. You can see each other's faces. You can,
So
have
you're
real
using
conversations.
technology to facilitate real life interaction.
Yeah. And yes, sometimes there's just situations where the technology is going to make something more possible. Great. Like you can't be together, but then you could still talk to each other. Fine. But if you could be together, could we try to make that happen? Because I do think your conversations are richer and better and more memorable and more interesting when you have more signal, when you can see faces and tone of voice and all the things. So I also personally try to use text for utility to make plans. We send memes too, I'll be honest. But mostly I'm trying to stay connected when I can if I have friends who live far away or we're too busy to make plans in person. But I'm always trying to think about that. Social media is not an essential. It doesn't do something critical or vital to life, like communication, that can't be done elsewhere. It is entertainment. And I think it just has to be recognized as what it is. And there's a time and a place for entertainment. And in every family, how much free time you have that you can devote to entertainment will vary. But that's the lens I like to think about it through. So if you do I call it like 24 hours in a day math, right? Like your kid's going to sleep for 9 or 10 hours. Your kid's going to be in school for 8, and they're going to hopefully shower and eat a few meals. And they're going to do some homework, and they're going to have an after school activity. And you kind of stack all of that together. You're left with a couple of hours. It'll vary, right? But a few hours left in a day. Okay. That's the time you have. That's your free time. That's the time you get to do entertaining activities. What are you going to do at that time? Is it all going to be devoted to a video game? Is it all going to be devoted to Snapchat? Is it going to be, watching a TV show with your family and a little bit of this and a little, all of the things it could be, and start to think about it that way, I think is a healthier approach. Because also, if you find that that's understand what a day looks like, and the math isn't mathing because they're spending 8 hours a day doing something, then you've got a conversation to have there too, right? Like, so this is starting to creep into places that it shouldn't. And so what's going on there? Are you spending too much time doing these activities that are entertainment?
Yeah.
And you have other obligations.
Important to explain to them what an algorithm is, what it's doing, why it's serving you up certain content, and saying, you like soccer, you like engineering, you like whatever. Let's just go and find some really cool shows on TV that are about the things you enjoy, and let's watch those shows instead of letting a computer decide what you should be watching and what you should be spending your time with, and then letting them know, because then it's just serving you up whatever it wants, and then it has a high possibility that it's going to serve you something inappropriate. Like, let's just take that element out of the equation and just watch what we want to watch. If we've decided, hey, it's a Friday evening and we want to just sit back and be entertained, let's actually just choose what we want to be entertained with instead of being fed something.
I think that's right. And I think it's looking at, leaning into your child's interests. And by the way, you can do that with YouTube, because I feel like that's always the question, right? But you have to be very intentional about it. There's a lot of long form content on YouTube. So if your child truly loves soccer and they're really interested in soccer highlights, you can find some great 20, 30, 60, 90-minute videos of soccer highlights. That's okay. What's more problematic is if it's not set up correctly and you're not kind of watching it, what they get fed next or how quickly they get fed next and all the other trappings of it. But there's a lot of content in a lot of places. I think the challenge for parents is to choose literally the channels on which you're going to allow it. And for some families, that'll mean they're only ever doing it on broadcast and streaming channels. For others, they may say, you know what, I found a lot of good content for my child on a YouTube or wherever, but just make sure that you're setting it up in a way that's going to make sense and will be safe for them.
That's true. We've found really cool educational stuff on YouTube about how different things are built or how things are made, or a lot of really cool stuff. And I just tell them, like, stay on the channels that we have decided are safe. Don't ever click on the stuff that it just suggests to you, because that's how you're going to go down that rabbit hole of stuff that's not going to be great or could be very, very inappropriate. And so they know to stay on those channels. And we do it on the big, huge television in the living room. So I see exactly what's going on. And so a lot of times I'm not watching, but I'm in the kitchen and I can hear. And if it's talking about squirrels doing an obstacle course, I'm like, this is great, this is great. And every once in a while I hear something and I go, whoa, 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 what is that? And I walk in the other room and I go, what is this? And they're like, it's about Minecraft. And I'm like, I didn't approve this. And it's kind of amazing how fast it can go bad, where like they see something that says Minecraft or they see something that says Legos and it looks totally great. And so they think, oh, I can click on this. And then all of a sudden I realize that the music in the background of this Lego building thing has tons of cuss words. And so if it were on mute, it would really actually look totally fine. It's just somebody building Legos. But when you're listening to it, you're like, whoa, this is hardcore rap. How did this happen? And it's usually because, oh, well, I just clicked on it because it was Legos. And I have to be like, guys, that wasn't one of the channels that we've already determined is okay. So that's kind of why you also need to have an ear out, and why I would assume everybody in this space usually agrees no devices in the bedroom and no devices at night. Would you say that's like a pretty good standard?
I think it's a good standard. We call it the open and notorious policy in my house. Like, everything has to be out.
Okay.
And that includes, by the way, putting on a set of headphones to listen, which we don't do either. Needs to happen in the living room. In our house, we do have a PC that my kids use, but it's in my husband's office, which he's very kind to allow that to happen in there. Sometimes towards the end of his workday, I'm like, how are you doing this?
So he's in there and
but he's
can
there.
see what they're doing. Okay.
So they're allowed to use that computer, but not with headphones on. And part of it is so that if a parent isn't already in the room, they could walk in at any moment. And that is part of it, because I do think kids will make better choices. They will be less tempted to sneak something. Or be tempted by something, because I do think that the power of the content being served is more of the issue than our kids. Kids don't have great impulse control. They're kids. They're succumbing to something that's really, really powerful. But if you know mom's going to walk in and she might blow her top, I do think you're going to pause and maybe remember that rule that she set out about not clicking into the next thing. You're at least you're more likely to.
If people are already deep into this and they've got kids that have been watching this stuff for a couple of years and they're listening to this thinking, oh crap, how do I walk this back? Is that something you go over on these webinars?
I do. Well, I would say this set of webinars, I'm not going particularly into YouTube. YouTube is its own chapter. I will create a course specifically on YouTube, hopefully this winter.
But
a
maybe social
great place-
media, like
Yeah, the social media one will give you a lot of good tips that will be applicable generally. If you're struggling with YouTube in specific, I would start by making sure you're using the Family Link app, which is a free app, and it's how you control anything in the Google universe. So that includes the Chrome browser, YouTube, the Google Play Store, and if your child was on an Android device, it's the parental controls for the device. But spend some time familiarizing yourself and learning about that app. There's a lot you can do in there to make sure that your YouTube is safer.
Okay.
The other pro tip is that if YouTube is being watched on your family computer, or excuse me, your family TV, it should be logged in. Once you've set up an account for your child through Family Link, then log in, and that's what they should be watching on your big TV, not an unrestricted account or your account, because you are an adult. You are going to have different use cases for YouTube, and you don't want them on your account. You want them on their own separate account that knows their age, knows that you've disabled autoplay and all the other things.
And that's
over
different
time, your kid will...
than YouTube for Kids.
It is. So many kids will age out of YouTube for Kids, and the age that they do that varies. But with a supervised YouTube account, which is sort of the next step up, you create a Gmail address for your child. You don't have to give them the password if you don't want to, but they have their own instance, their own account through that Gmail. And then you can set a content rating. You can say nothing, this is only content appropriate for 9 or younger, or 11 or younger, whatever. My 12-year-old is still on the 9 account rating.
Okay.
He's fine.
No, that's good to know, because right now
He's surviving.
Literally physically monitor it by being in the room, but I need to set up some of those things.
Yeah, you can disable autoplay, you can search history, you can do a lot of things. You can't, if they're going to go actively click on something, there's no way to just make it so that it's one show at a time. But it will certainly give you a lot more if they've outgrown YouTube Kids.
Okay, that's very good. Because, they complain because, even certain shows that are very appropriate, if somebody's explaining, like, what happened on the Titanic, or, sometimes that won't be allowed on kids' YouTube just because it's theoretically meant for adults, but it's totally appropriate for kids, but it's just not a kid's show per se. So my kids really complain they don't want to go on YouTube for Kids because they can't watch some of the stupid stuff like Mr. Beast and whatever, which drives me crazy.
The
but
prank
I'm
shows.
Okay, 20 minutes of Mr. Beast isn't going to kill you. But I cut it off after a few minutes, but they're they just think, some of this silly stuff is fun. And I get it. It is fun. Yep. That's part of what YouTube is.
And it's how this age group consumes content. That's the sort of revelation I had to come to, is that the sitcom that I watched growing up is akin to them watching every episode of Mr. Beast.
Got it. Because all the
it's not my choice.
I would assume because
the
kids are
taste.
talking about it at school, and that makes them feel like they know what's going on.
That's the zeitgeist, right? That's the growing pains. I'm so aging myself. Of my generation,
it's the
where
water
you knew that was the show
talk.
everyone was going to talk about.
Okay.
Did you see the latest episode of Mr. Beast? Did you see this thing, this, that, or the other thing? And so, not everything that everyone's talking about is going to feel appropriate for our kid, but some of it is actually appropriate. It's just not your taste.
Right.
And I had to be real honest about that distinction. Just because I wouldn't watch it, that to me didn't feel like a reason to say no to it, just because I find it annoying or that person's voice is too shrill. That's a different thing. That's a different thing than it being,
I'm like, okay,
cursing and others.
It's not violent. It's not cussing. It's not whatever. But I just, at one point though, I said to my kids, I was like, he's so obsessed with money. Everything on Mr. Beast is do this and I'll give you $100,000. So I just felt like I had to say something to my kids. No, money's not absolutely everything. I just thought, man, after watching enough of these videos, are they going to think that their life is going to be terrible if they don't have $10 million?
Well, it's interesting. One of my son's takeaways was, when I grow up, I want to work for, I think it was Team C's, is one of the nonprofits he gives a lot of money to. he really responded to that. And he's like, and then he started telling me about all the ocean garbage. And I was like, yeah, no, okay.
Great.
But it's certainly worth like the conversation because it brings up interesting things. But yes, Mark Rober's another great one.
Yes, we love him.
The squirrels.
He's great. We also
really
watched one called Jared Owen. It's like, here's how they built the arch in St. Louis. Like, it's very detailed models of how things were built, like the space station and stuff. And so it's very educational and it's very interesting. But he just constantly is like showing computer models of how different things were made, just because my boys are interested in like engineering type stuff. But
right, which you want to lean into as an interest, right? Like that they're into engineering is a good thing. Finding, a show on Netflix about engineering would be harder. So, YouTube is a lot of things. It's great. It's troubling.
Right, exactly. This stuff is not all evil. I mean, there's absolutely great things about all this stuff. It's got great aspects, but it's got dark aspects. And so we just have to be aware as parents and awake. We can't be asleep at the wheel.
Yes.
So I really want people to check out your webinars. And what were the dates again that they're happening?
So the live dates are September 8th, 15th, and 22nd.
Okay.
You can look for tickets. You can go to digitalmom.me, or you can check out my profile page on Instagram, and I'm at Digital Momming. You could purchase tickets either place.
Money well spent. Spend the money now figuring out what to do so you don't have to spend thousands of dollars in therapy down the road because your children saw stuff they shouldn't see.
It's preventative, yes.
And I'm kind of joking, but I'm kind of not joking. This is when you want to be doing this research. Also, just one quick thing before we end. On your Substack, you had a great article the other day about 5 of your top books. And I actually have a similar one on my website that I did a couple months ago. But I'm wondering if you could just pick one book that a parent should read this month, or if they're just starting to kind of get into this whole topic of kids and tech. What do you think would be your number one pick?
So I mean, everyone says this one, but I do think Jonathan Haidt's book is the sort of seminal text on this, Anxious Generation.
And I thought it was interesting because we each put 5 books on our websites, and that's the only one that we overlapped on was The Anxious Generation.
I know. Good. Now I want to look at your list. But I am also, 2 of the books on my list really are more parenting books and are not necessarily about technology.
Okay.
And I just think it's interesting as we go through all of this. Technology is just one aspect of all of the things that we're managing. And I really found a lot that I liked about books that are talking about the age that our child is as we're going through a lot of this. So those are some of my recs. But we should do a little compare and contrast of book lists. I'm trying to read The Tech Exit right now.
Okay.
I just started it. I would recommend that for you, and I should have a little, maybe I'll come back on and we'll chat about it.
Yes, we could have a book club.
So I'm actually interested. I sent out a survey to see if anyone would want to do a virtual book club. So we should follow up about that.
Interesting.
But
yeah, let us know
if
people out there are listening and you guys want to do a book club. Let us know on our Instagram. Let us know on our websites, because that could be really fun.
Yeah. We'll include it. I think we should do it in the fall. We'll include it. We'll figure it out if enough people are interested, for sure.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on a second time. I hope you can come on a third. And I hope this helps people a lot. So I will for sure be checking out those webinars, and I hope everybody else does. And I will never be going on Snapchat again. So
it sounds like you need a timeout. No offense.
I do.
I think for your own mental health, it's time to, as we say, right? It's time to take a break.
That was a real wake up call. Oh, and actually, the last thing I will say for people though is I had heard kind of in the ether that if you're going to give your kid an app, they say, check it out yourself for 6 days.
Yes.
And I guess that has something to do with the way the algorithms go and like how you could see totally different stuff after a couple of days than you did in the first couple of days. But I will 1,000,000% agree with that you should do the game. You should do the app for at least a couple of days because it may be real eye-opening to you that it's different than what you thought it was. And so you should try it out before you say yes. So
Great advice. It's a great point to end on, too.
So thank you so much. Thank you for listening to Screen Less, Play More podcast. If you like what you hear, please tell your friends and please rate and review us on YouTube or Spotify or Apple, wherever you listen. That really helps other people find us and helps us get the word out. A special thanks to WJD, who does all of our IT, and Neil Penninger, who composed our theme music. Please also check out screenlessplaymore.com for research about kids and tech, some ideas on getting kids outside playing and away from screens, book recommendations, and so much more.